But the Thor part is what's really throwing me off, because why would Thor be outside of the MCU? All right, this question comes to us from Daniel. Daniel writes, "Hey Colton, did you see that My Time to Shine Hello says that Steve and Thor are on the Fantastic Four ship by the time we see it arriving in the MCU? Thoughts?" All right. And he sent me a link to a, what is this? Comicbookmovie.com article. Okay. Let's take a look at that. And yeah, I saw a little bit of this online on the socials. So let's see. All right, they're talking about the Thunderbolts post-credit scene. Let's get down to, okay. According to My Time to Shine H, that's My Time to Shine Hello, there's a quote, Thor and Steve are already on the Fantastic Four ship with Doom before it arrives in the MCU. Before it arrives in the MCU. Okay. So, in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, which we have confirmation, that scene where they see the Fantastic Four rocket coming into orbit and all that, that scene is indeed a scene in Avengers Doomsday. So, and they say that the rocket is an interdimensional ship or craft or whatever. It's coming in to the MCU, and My Time to Shine Hello, a relatively reliable leaker, is saying that Thor and Steve are already on the ship with Doctor Doom, something that I've speculated a lot before, that perhaps Doctor Doom and Franklin are the ones on the rocket, not necessarily the Fantastic Four. We'll talk about that a little bit here in a sec. Plus, we have that new Wakanda and Fantastic Four trailer that I think implies that the Fantastic Four rocket has landed like near Wakanda and Talokan. Some people think they're in the void, which I also want to talk about in a video, but we'll save that for another one. So this claim is that Thor and Steve are already in the Four ship before it arrives in the MCU. Okay, well then that makes me wonder, unless he misspoke, there's two ways to look at this. Either My Time to Shine Hello meant before the ship arrives, like on the MCU 616 Earth, or before it arrives in the MCU 616 universe. Because Thor especially, he's already in the 616 universe. So how would he be on the Fantastic Four ship before it arrives in the MCU? Thor's from the MCU. So that would imply that either Thor did some multiversal traveling or something like that, and that's why he is now with them. Or I'm even seeing here that they suggest in the article here that unless it's a Thor variant, which I don't think that'll be the case. And as for Steve, look, I won't get into the nitty-gritty of timelines versus universes, but we do have to keep in mind that Steve Rogers, technically, he's still in Universe 616. He just created a branching, like, splintered off timeline. Now, if you want to say that could be categorized as a different universe, a different reality or whatever, like 616 point something, then sure, maybe the Fantastic Four went there and picked him up, and now they're coming into the mainline MCU. But with Thor being on the ship as well, that's interesting. So we know that the Thunderbolts, they do like a 14-month later time skip from the end of the Thunderbolts. Their post-credit scene is them, like, they're talking about how Sam is, like, suing for copyright over the name Avengers. We're wondering why aren't they all just, like, working together? It's probably because Sam doesn't want to work for Val and might think that some of these cats on the new Avengers team shouldn't be Avengers. And we can see a cool, like, battle, I think, of, like, ideological battle and, like, rhetorical argument between Sam and Bucky over, like, if Sam says, you know, these guys are criminals or killers, blah, 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 they can't be Avengers. And then Bucky be like, what am I, man? I've done terrible things. You saying I can't be an Avenger? I think that's really setting up a cool conversation there. But anyway, that post-credit scene goes on, and we see the Fantastic Four rocket entering the universe. They say it's an interdimensional or an extra-dimensional craft or something like that. And for My Time to Shine Hello to say that Thor and Steve are already on the Fantastic Four ship with Doom, Doctor Doom, before it arrives in the MCU. So that tells us, I think, that when in the post-credit scene for Fantastic Four, where we saw Doctor Doom show up in that 4 year later time skip, and we see him with Franklin, instead of him just nabbing Franklin, we're probably going to see a scene where Sue is like, Victor? Because she knows who he is. And John Campea over at the John Campea show, he says he knows the entire plot of Doomsday. He says that the scene in that movie where we see the Latveria seat at the United Nations, it's not called the United Nations in the movie, but whatever, the Future Foundations thing or whatever of nations, that it is addressed why Doom was not at that meeting for representing Latveria, that's addressed in the movie. So I'm wondering if in that conversation right now, or right there, we see Doom stand up, put his mask back on, say hello, Sue, and like explain like I'm sorry, I've been away or something like that. Maybe he's been gone, like MIA for a while, and he's been like traveling the multiverse trying to save the multiverse or something, and now he's back to his home universe, perhaps Universe 828. And he talks with Reed and everyone, and then they get in the Fantastic Four rocket and go to the mainline MCU. Now, we did that video talking about how in the Doomsday teaser for Wakanda and the Fantastic Four, we're in that desert setting, and we see Namor and the Talakans, and we see Shuri Black Panther, King Mbaku. I said that I thought it was probably just the desert that they fought in at the end of Wakanda Forever, but now I'm kind of second guessing that. And I said that even though we could see like those temples in the background, and some people that made them think that this was Talakon, which is supposed to be underwater, but for some reason the water is gone, and that's tied to the Doomsday event. I said that I didn't think that was the case because where they're sitting in this desert just doesn't look deep enough. Like I would think that it would look like they were down in a canyon because it's like on the ocean floor. But perhaps if it's wide enough, that entire area would just be on the ground and you wouldn't necessarily see the taller like terrain walls. So perhaps it could be Talakon. And the reason that the Fantastic Four are landing there, and the reason that the Wakandans, approach as well, is because Wakanda and Talakon are right by each other, and they both have vibranium like beneath their soil, and that's what gives them, their advanced tech, and like even Namor and his people, like his mutant abilities, and his people becoming, underwater people and whatnot. The vibranium could be what attracts Reed to go there. Like once they enter that universe and go to that Earth, perhaps Reed would determine we need to go somewhere with an advanced lab. I'm picking up a great signal here that indicates to me that the most advanced society on this version of Earth is going to be down there. So that's where they go. And that's where they meet the Wakandans, meet the Talakans. But, I've heard some convincing arguments that they're actually in the void. Now, the void, of course, being the void at the end of time that we saw in the Loki series and that we saw in Deadpool and Wolverine. And in Deadpool and Wolverine, we see like the desert version of the void. If Doomsday is adapting more of Secret Wars than I thought it was, and if their pivot from Kang Dynasty to Doomsday really included a lot of pulling what they were going to do in Secret Wars over into Doomsday, and that way leaving that movie open for even more stuff, because I've said that I think that Doctor Doom was always the plan for Secret Wars, and they really were just moving up their plans by announcing RDJ as Doom. I think they already had that plan for Secret Wars, but then everything that happened with Jonathan Majors and with Kang not being received well, I thought he was great. But I get the Jonathan Majors thing to an extent, but I don't understand why they abandoned the character of Kang. And I don't understand why they made his character appear so weak. Anyway, that's not what the video is about. I do think that part of their pivot was just moving up some Secret Wars stuff into this other slot, this Avengers 5 slot that was once Kang Dynasty, and now it's Doomsday. So anyway, I say all that because I think Secret Wars, all of Secret Wars would take place in Battle World. And I've said that I think Battle World, which is a conglomeration in the comics of various different worlds all pieced together by Doom, what is the Void if not a conglomeration of various different worlds compiled into one? That's what the Void at the end of time is. That's where stuff that gets pruned from existence goes, if it's not completely, gotten rid of at the time of pruning. So if the multiverse dies and you survive that, you wind up in the void. What if Doomsday, the apocalypse of the MCU multiverse, what if that Doomsday happens like in Act 1 of the movie? There was that light show that they showed teasing Doomsday really early on, and it looked like from that light show that they pretty much spoiled what we thought was the ending of the movie, which is Doom taking his throne and reorganizing like those shards of glass into that one thing like we saw him do in the light show. Shards of glass, of course, representing like the pieces of different universes. We've seen that in What If, how they've shown that the multiverse, like they've depicted it with like pieces of glass. So what if Doomsday, the first act, is the multiverse ending? What if in that scene, in that trailer, when the Thing meets Mbaku and Black Panther, what if they're all already in the void? I thought it was their rocket landing near Wakanda and then meeting there. And we did that video about maybe Doom is with them. People thought that, maybe a character was digitally removed from the shot. Maybe Thor was digitally removed from the shot. Maybe Steve was digitally removed from the shot. But what if it's not even that they're meeting in Wakanda? What if they're meeting in the void and Doctor Doom has gone to get Franklin and also his good friend Reed and Sue and the Thing or Ben, I'm sorry, why'd I call you the Thing, Ben? And Johnny, and it's like, hey, you guys need to come with me. The entire multiverse is dying. Your son's super important, and we need to go pick up these other super important people. Steve Rogers, perhaps Thor. Maybe when Thor's in the woods there, maybe he's already in the void. We've seen that the void has different like landscapes and whatnot. It's like landscapes and what different. God, the word is different. I don't know, nature settings. Comment the word down below. My brain's not working. But we've seen woods in the void. God, did I just have a stroke? We've seen the woods in the void. We've seen deserts in the void. We've seen like cornfield looking things in the void. So it really goes into that battle world thing of its different conglomerations of different worlds just put into one thing. So perhaps Thor is already in the void at that point, and he's been brought there by Doom and the Fantastic Four, and perhaps the entire multiverse has died or dying, and they're needing to go there to try to fix it, or they're being recruited by Doom, and then they realize Doom's not the good guy. They fight. I realize I'm going on too long. All of this is based on this one little report, though, about the potentiality of Thor and Steve already being on the Fantastic Four ship with Doom before it arrives in the MCU. So I want to hear your thoughts and theories on why that would be, how that would be. He is saying the ship arrives in the MCU. Are they coming to pick up the new Avengers? Or I don't know. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and theories on this down in the comments below. It sounds cool. Yeah, I think that it would be neat to see Steve like recruited from his timeline by Doom. Like, hey, you kind of messed some shit up. I need you to come with me so we can fix it. But the Thor part is what's really throwing me off, because why would Thor be outside of the MCU and then come back into it? Unless they went and got Thor and then came back, or Thor was with Loki or something. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and theories on it down in the comments below, though. And thank you for sending me this article. It's certainly interesting.